Abundance flows to me when I get out of my own way. Life is so easy when I focus on what is great. I am worthy of reciprocated energy. I am worthy of a love that loves as deep as me. I am worthy of aligning with my higher self. I am worthy of desiring miracles and heaven.
Hey guys, it's me, Trayvon. Welcome back to another episode of Crazy Talk. I'm so excited to announce that we will be welcoming our first guest on today's episode. This amazing woman has so kindly agreed to speak with me and share her story with mental health. Throughout this video, we will be diving into what it was like growing up for her, her getting her diagnosis, and also some tips that has helped her throughout her journey. I am so honored and so grateful to welcome Jennifer to the show.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Glad you're able to get everything up and running.
Yes, man. I tell you, I went through it this morning. My internet crashed at like 3 o'clock. I was like,
Oh,
no. Yes, but luckily we were able to get that out.
yeah.
So how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good today. Today's been a pretty good day. So,
Good. I'm glad to hear.
thanks.
So thank you for doing this with me. I am
Yeah.
so glad. Um, I think the more stories that I get, the better people can understand exactly what's going on because so many people experience like borderline personality disorder and other mental health issues so differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, there's not enough firsthand accounts.
Mhm.
So it's more case studies and
Right.
psychological's view, and you can only get so much from that?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. That's exactly what I said in my first episode. Because me personally, when I was diagnosed, the first thing I did was Google, and it's a bit scary. I mean, you see all these big words, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm crazy. But it's so much more than that.
It is. It is.
So you said you were diagnosed with borderline personality disorder.
I was. I was.
Okay. When did you get diagnosed?
So we know going back to paperwork when I was 14, it started showing up on things. A doctor had offhand mentioned it to my mom and said, she's really exhibiting these signs, but she can't be diagnosed yet. Maybe something you want to look into. And she did. And she was like, yep, that's my daughter.
Wow. That's interesting that you said they were bringing it up so young. That's
Hmm.
very different for me because I had a lot of misdiagnosis. And I had a lot of people just telling me like I was just basically psychotic and putting me on antipsychotics and not really exploring that option. I
Yeah.
did not find out that that was even a possibility until I was about 17.
Wow.
Yeah. So how would you describe borderline personality disorder to someone that's never heard of it?
So it's kind of complicated. So, like for me, how I would describe it is imagine that every problem, pretty much, or every hiccup, or becomes this crisis, and this crisis kind of follows this pattern. So, these intense feelings of anger, like I turn into the Hulk, then this high where it's like, F this, I got this, F everybody, you know, time to start cutting ties. And then it shifts to depression. And it's like, so what do I have left? Like, if I cut all these people out of my life, yeah, this isn't looking good. And then it turns to, poor pitiful me, or why am I like this? Why am I pushing people away, to the depression, to the suicide? And, most people don't realize, they look at it and go, okay, well, that happens to a lot of people, but yeah, not in that short time period.
Right.
Not when you experience all of that in like a 5-minute window. It's a fantastic ride.
You sum that up in so perfectly. I'm literally tearing up because this is the first time I've ever talked to somebody that's been able to really identify it like that.
Mhm.
And that's spot on. Um, and it's funny that you mentioned that, like people will often say like everybody goes goes through that.
Mm.
I actually had a therapist one time was like, everybody gets depressed.
Yeah.
Like, it's no big deal. I'm like, I swear
Yeah.
something's wrong with me, but
Yeah. And thanks for that invalidating thought, by the way. I appreciate
right,
that too, you know?
exactly. And that's why it's important. Like, in my other episode, I did mention that just going to therapy is not really, it's really hard. Even though
Mhm.
there's a lot, there's a many platforms, there's a lot of therapists out there. It's really hard to get one that you can connect with and that like you can really work with.
Yeah.
Um, because you would be surprised by how many therapists are out there. It's just not it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you, one thing I was really impressed by. So I've got this new therapist. She's awesome. But on her website, like she listed out like the different qualifications you can get under DBT
Mhm.
and links to the certifications process. So you can search and see who's certified and who's not, and all this information. It really made me go, okay, if she's informing her clients that way, then how well or educated is she herself on what this really is and how to really do it?
Right. Wow. Yeah, and that's a great thing, putting resources out there and giving people
Mm-hmm.
the tools to find and look. Because me, I know I'm very impulsive, so I'm not going out there looking for resources. I mean, even if I do, it's just a very quick, and then I don't really find what I'm looking for, and I'm done. Um, so that's an awesome thing that she does.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when you first got diagnosed, how did that make you feel?
Oh, horrible. I so one of the doctors literally looked at us, me and my mom, and told me that I'd never live to see the day I'd turn 18, because it was that bad. And BPD is that bad. And so it was like, okay, great. You've just handed me a death sentence. What do I do with this? How do I move past this and think, okay, I actually have a future to live for? Um, so at first it was really, really hard. And then I kind of got to this point where it's like, you know what? No, no, you are not going to write my future for me. And
Absolutely.
so it was just this journey that began. And, I think that was the hardest part, is getting to this point where you accept the diagnosis, but don't let it become you, because you exhibit these symptoms, you exhibit these characteristics, but that's not at the core of who you are. So when you're doing good and you're not on these BPD flares and BPD episodes, you can be an amazing person. You are either, but it really gives you a chance to shine in your full personality, your full gifts and talents that you've been given. And I think that's the problem, is not giving people a death sentence in this.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's insane that they told you that. I,
Mm-hmm.
I was basically handed a piece of paper and was sent on my way. So I
Oh.
did Googling and saw those percentages of like that people commit suicide or don't live
Mm.
past a certain age. And that was very scary for me. Um, So I think it's amazing that you took that power. You said no, like you're not going to define my future. And it is definitely a journey, and making the point, like getting to the point where you say, I'm not borderline personality disorder. I'm so much more, like you said, like that's a very freeing feeling.
It is.
When would you say you reached that moment?
Um, so I really dived into DBT when I was 16. There was a pilot program going on at a local university, and they were teaching DBT very intently. And part of the program was they actually had to do case studies. And so it was a year-long commitment, and you went through DBT for a year. And I think that's when it really changed, when I started to see DBT where it really is, when it's taught the way it's supposed to be.
Hmm.
Then it really gave me hope, because here I am, just able to just devour these skills and
Right.
devour these ideas and thoughts and ways of reshaping my brain that years and years of abuse made me think this way or contributed to me to thinking this way.
Hmm. Hmm. And you said you were how old?
It was
When
about 16.
oh wow, okay. Um, and I lost my train of thought. That was so good. So you said that you went to a university, like they were doing a case study. Oh, I know. I'm sorry. My follow-up question. For those that don't know what DBT is, could you explain what that is?
Yes. So dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, is a very different way of doing therapy. It pretty much gives you a skill set and a handout set. And so your skill set works on things like interpersonal effectiveness. I know big words, you can Google. Um, and for those that don't know, but distress tolerance, which is huge because when you get these emotions and these moments of desperation, you have to sit with them for a little bit. You can't just act on them. And so learning to retrain your brain to go, okay, this is just stress. How do I fight this? And going through it. And there's great handouts that Marsha Lynham, who is amazing, a queen, just came out with. And thankfully, the book's been updated recently. So there's new skills, like it's 3, 4 times thicker than it was.
Oh,
But it,
nice.
yeah, but it's got so much more comprehensive information,
Mhm.
so much more skills and tactics and things that you can do to really work on how to get through the crisis moment, because that's the most important part. When you have these BPD flares, when you have these BPD episodes, you go through crisis. And so to take that moment and go, okay, this is what I'm facing. What do I need to address this? What do I need to take in right now? And then, okay, now that I've got myself down a little bit, what step do I take next? And then next. And
Mhm.
then I'm back to calm and relaxed and more normal.
Absolutely. And learning those tools is very important. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's basically really why I'm doing this, because a lot of people don't have access to those tools. They don't have people giving them handouts, and they don't know where to look. And with borderline personality disorder, I've come to realize those tools are very, very important.
Mm,
And not only that, realizing your patterns. And DBT is a great way to help with that. Um,
yes.
and when and a lot of people think, mental illness, it's a hormonal imbalance medication.
Mm,
And that's what happened to me. I was often medicated as a child. Did that happen to you?
yes. I was on enough medications that my mom laughs now, but I would literally take my pills and like pop them all into a shot glass and then just whoop up with a shot glass. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it's crazy how many people with borderline are over medicated just because they aren't given the proper tools to deal with day-to-day life, moment by moment crisis. And so they're over medicated to the point that, okay, great, yeah, maybe it'll help them deal in a crisis, but now they can't function on a daily life because they're so drugged up.
Right. And that's not helping anything. That's
No,
absolutely not helping anything.
no.
Um, um, and what I know you said your mom was there when you were going through all this. Was she like a good support system for you?
It was a double-edged sword. So
Mm,
she was a, a champion,
mm,
and reminded me of that frequently, at the same time being very invalidating and abusive. There were comments that would be made and things that, well, you're just crazy, or, you don't know how to deal with this, or I don't know how to deal with you, or um, just comments like that. And my dad was not there most of the time. He was gone. So working or unfaithful. Uh, so, I didn't have a stable foundation to pull from. I didn't have a stable support system. That definitely wasn't the case. And so it made it that much harder to get through. Um, my mom, thankfully, had been touched by mental health as a child. Her mother was paranoid schizophrenic. And so my mom saw that progression throughout her life of what mental health looks like. And so I think that kind of colored what her thought of mental health was.
right.
Um, because my grandmother never received the appropriate care. Um, and so she never was able to get her life kind of right and
Mhm.
on a good track. And so I think that kind of colored my mom in that, okay, great, we can help Jennifer, but how much can we really help? You know, how
Right.
much can we really do? Um, so, I learned to turn to friends and stuff, which is not always the best support system or the most, um,
Absolutely.
but,
Absolutely.
we made it. I'm here. I'm here. So,
Absolutely. And so friends, it's better than nothing. Hey,
yes.
even though they may not lead you to the best decisions all the time, but at least having someone to talk to is a major thing. I know for me, just being able to talk, I kind of will talk myself down out of my episode.
Mhm.
And growing up, that was not a case for me. I didn't really have that support system. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I'm glad you had some friends that you could lean on because I know parents can be tough, especially with those negative comments and
Mhm.
saying that I don't know how to help you. That's a very difficult thing to hear as a child.
Yeah.
Um, and do you
And
have any? Oh,
I've
go
learned
ahead.
something now. Like,
Mhm,
so when people say that I can't handle you,
mhm,
what you need to take that and think in your mind, that's fine. That's all right. Because that means I'm stronger than you because I
mhm.
can handle me.
Absolutely.
So just flip it around in your head. Just flip it around a little
Absolutely.
bit.
Absolutely. That's an amazing thing to hear. Because hearing that even as an adult, that's pretty impactful and hurtful. So
Hmm.
because even with BPD, I mean a lot of people can't, honestly,
Yeah.
we are a lot to handle, but still hearing that is hard to hear.
Hmm.
um Sorry. And so did you have kids? Do you have kids?
I do.
How many do you have?
So by birth, I have three.
Mhm,
I have two daughters at home. Well, one's moved out because she's old enough,
mhm,
and one was an open adoption. I gave her up for open adoption. So I was going to be a single mom to one, and I knew I couldn't give it all for two, and she deserved more. So that was an open adoption, and then later I got married and had another child. Um, that marriage unfortunately didn't work out. Um, got remarried, and my husband that I have now, who is hands down the best, we have five altogether. So he has a couple of kids himself. So busy
okay.
household.
Well, I'm so glad you found somebody. How long have y'all been married?
So we've been together. Well, we got married in 2018. We've been together 9 years now.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Because for those that don't know, borderline personality disorder, we tend to have a very hard time with long stable relationships. So that's amazing, and that's an accomplishment in itself that you could maintain that and do that. um how would you say having kids was like with borderline personality disorder?
Oh God. Oh, it is difficult, especially because, sorry, gonna call you girls out. We're pretty sure that they have it as well.
Mhm.
So it's not just being a parent with borderline, it's being a parent of borderline too.
That has to
Which
be hard.
it makes it a lot more interesting to say the
Yeah.
least. But it's an amazing thing. And so there will be times when I will go through crisis.
Hmm.
And me and my husband will be in an argument. I'll go through crisis because something has gotten in my head and I've gone off with it.
Hmm.
And he will see me flip this switch where I just drop. My face
Hmm.
just it's over. And I start crying and something in him switches and it's like, okay, she's in crisis. We're going to set this aside right now. We'll come back to this. We're going to set it aside. I need to deal with you. And it's the same thing with my girls when they go through a crisis moment. We can be in an argument or a disagreement. And it's so funny. It's like a light switch. It's like, boom, nope. Okay, that has got to be set aside.
Hmm.
She's in crisis. I've got to deal with this. And I think because as a parent with borderline, I realized how invalidating it was for someone not to stop and go, okay, what's going on? What can I help with? What are you feeling? What are you hearing? And because sometimes we hear things wrong, we skip things because we're so over the top at that moment. And so I think it's important to ask that question: what are you hearing? What are you feeling? And how can I help? And so we will go through that progression when we're in that moment, just to kind of break down that step a little bit and take it to a different light. I've gotten pretty good with learning. So we live in an RV on my mom's land, and my kids live in the house. So when I need a break, I just come out into the RV and
Nice,
take,
yes.
just take a breath. And my kids, like, I can literally, like, yesterday I was talking to my daughter and she was asking me a bunch of questions. I had my husband texting me at the same time. I was trying to look up something on Amazon and the air conditioner was on, overstimulation. So I literally texted her and said, I'm overstimulated. I can't talk on the phone right now. You can text me. We can do that.
Hmm.
It's learning how to meet them where they are, but be honest about yourself, because there are times when I need them to understand mom's not okay right now. It doesn't mean it's anything you did. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean that it's anything that you caused. I'm just having some feelings. And
Absolutely.
and so addressing it with the kids like that has been so valuable. And
Hmm.
they've even told me that how
Hmm.
helpful that has been, because it allows them to know that they're not causing this. They're not doing something. It's not them, it's me. And just give me time,
Absolutely.
it's me.
That that's so powerful and so amazing. Having a family that can support you and understand, and y'all have that communication and understanding is, it's no wonder you lasted so long, because that's so important to have that.
Mhm.
And then when you said, sorry, it's in my head. Um, sorry, this is the ADHD in me.
No, you're good. I had it too.
Okay, I'll just come back to it.
You'll remember it. It'll
Yeah.
happen. It'll pop back up.
Um, but yeah, so that is so, I have to think of
It's gonna bug
transition. I'm
you, isn't
sorry.
it?
Yeah.
It's gonna bug you.
Yes, because it was like a good smooth transition. Um but I cannot, it just instantly bleeped out.
Oh,
Um oh, okay, I got it. So like that communication, and you said you sent that text when all that stuff was going on, and you're like, I'm overstimulated, I just need a moment. That in itself is such a powerful move for us, because it's
mhm.
really hard to identify your emotions when you're feeling so many emotions so intensely. um and I
And
was
it
actually introduced to like a emotion wheel way back when, and that helped so much, because I would think I'd be getting mad because the dog's barking, I'm trying to do something, and it's just too much, and I think I'm just
yes.
being pissy, I'm in a pissed mood. But now that I realize, like, it's just too much going on, I just need to stop, I can say that and prevent my outburst and rage screaming.
Mhm, mhm. And I think that's part of, the DBT is
Mhm.
learning what your triggers are, learning what symptoms you display, what does your body start to do in order to identify those things. It helps you cut it off at the pass. And it's such a powerful tool to be able to express and say, this is what I need in this moment, or this is what's going on in this moment. And I think for borderlines, it's so hard to do that because we're so fearful that if we're honest with a person and tell them what's going on, they're going to leave or they're going to call us crazy. There's going to be words of invalidation or something thrown around. And so it's easier to not say it out here and let it live up here.
Mhm.
And then that's where you get in problems because you have this whole imaginary conversation and argument up here. And then it's like, I've got to get it out here.
Yes, yes, I am famous for that. I honestly didn't know that everybody, like a lot of more people did that.
Yes.
So that's really, I'm literally famous for that. Like, I'll have a whole argument. I'll spend the whole day. My whole day is ruined because I'm in
Yes.
bed going back and forth in my head.
I'll
So,
wake
and
up
then,
like that too. Yes.
yes, and then when I finally get so mad, like it just boils over, I'm going on, and they're like, "What are you talking about? Like, what
Yeah.
is this?" I'm like, "I don't know." So that's interesting that you say that. So that was a really great conversation. I think I ran out of my questions.
Cool.
What more? Do you have any more topics you would like to discuss, or you want to
Um,
go over, or that you think is important?
I've got to emphasize the importance for people of having a good support system.
Mhm,
And you have to have that in multiple areas. So for me, I think of it as layers.
mhm,
So when I shut down and I'm in crisis, it's my first circle. That's all you're going to get out of me. Like, I'm not interacting with extra people because it's too overwhelming to do so.
absolutely.
And so you have to have your inner circle, but then you've got to have people that are outside of that. So outside of your favorite person
Mhm,
to communicate with and say, this is what's going on, or give parts of yourself to. Because the more we give away of ourselves, the more we get back. A lot of
mhm.
times we don't realize that by investing in others, we get so much. So we can go and volunteer and do things. We can go places that enriches our hearts and our souls. It makes us feel better. It gives those endorphin releases. And what better than to do it with your support system? But,
Absolutely.
you know, the support system for me has been game changing.
Mhm,
So my daughter, one of my girls, a couple of years ago attempted suicide.
mhm. I'm sorry to hear that.
And thanks. It was hard. It was difficult. Um, and so I really had to lean on my husband during that time.
Mhm,
Um, I honestly do not know to this day how I made it, other than God, because it just it was too overwhelming for me.
mhm.
Um, as I have encountered crisis more and more recently, because I think that there is a certain amount of time where DBT starts to fade. I
Mhm.
think just because we've gotten older, so it's kind of like you need a refresher course. So that's what I'm doing now is restarting in DBT. Um, but I think having that support system who understands the level that you're going through when you're going through those things. And so at that time, I could not function. Like, my brain wasn't there. I couldn't really work. I was focused on my daughter, and that was it, and everything else went to crap. um, Having my support system there who understood that I have nothing literally to give you right now. I just need to take
Absolutely. Mhm,
and was able to give that for me. Um, my husband, over the last couple of months, has really dived into what is BPD. So before, we've been living on marriage with him being uneducated on BPD.
mhm.
And then a couple of months ago, he went through a crisis and he was talking to a psychiatrist, and they said, "You have a wife with BPD." And he's like, "Yeah." And they were like, "Do you understand what that means?" And he's like, not really." And she was like, "You need to do some research."
Mhm.
And so he did. And so kudos to Med Circle on YouTube. They're a great resource. Um, Clinical psychiatrists and psychologists talking about BPD. What is this?
Really?
What does this look like? Yes, it is fantastic. And so he was going through and just absorbing this. And he looked at me afterwards and he was like, "Honey, I'm so sorry. I've been doing all this so wrong."
Mhm,
He's like, "I've been doing, I can't believe, like, I've done so much wrong over the last couple of years and I didn't realize what I was doing wrong and how that affected you and what you
mhm.
were really going through." And so through this learning process, like, I had a crisis moment on Saturday, had a full meltdown, drove off, impulsive driving, speeding and all that great stuff. And he called me and he was like, "Where are you at? What can I do?" And I was like, "I just need you to come to me. I can't do this right now." And he came and just picked me up, and we literally just sat, and all it took was 10 minutes for me to do this, you know, anger to, up to high to low. And then I was like, "You know what? I think I'm done. Enough with me. Let's move on with our day."
Mhm.
And so having that support system that can listen and really absorb what you're saying non-judgmentally
Absolutely.
and be there for you, it makes a world difference. I mean, it literally calmed me down to the point where I was like, "Okay, we're fine now," and be able to move on with my day.
And that's amazing because I know a lot of times when I get in an episode, that's my whole day. So, and it can
Mhm.
be easily be your whole day. So without a
Yes,
support system to talk you down and help get you more present, that's just amazing that you have that.
yes. It took me a long time. I'm 38 now, but we got
Mm.
there.
Absolutely, and it's definitely a journey. And I know earlier you were talking about how it's important to do things and volunteer and feed your soul and like that. Um, and for those that don't have the support system, because you were saying like do it with your support system, I just want
Mhm.
to say do it anyways without a support
Yes,
system because
go
I
for
know
it.
me. I had nobody, not a single soul in my
Mhm.
corner. So I spent years just sitting in this like stagnant position waiting for people to want to do things with me. So I was doing nothing with my life. And that was like
Right.
feeding into it. But then once
Mhm.
I started, I started running, doing things I like, and I developed my personality. I developed who I am because
Kudos.
I know one of the things with borderline personality disorder is I was reading about how a lot of people have issues with their self image or not
Mhm.
knowing or self identity.
Mhm.
And that was definitely one thing for me is I had no idea who I was.
Mhm.
So do it anyways, find out who you are,
Yes.
and you'll find your support system out there.
You will. They're out there waiting. I mean, there's tons of people out there on this earth. And, sometimes, believe it or not, okay, Facebook can be crazy sometimes, but sometimes you can find that support system in like minded individuals where they gather. And so sometimes it's finding a support group online. Sometimes it's finding, you know, uh, a meme group that's twisted memes and makes you laugh, and it's common people who are doing the same thing. And that camaraderie will build so much positivity and the hope in the future of tomorrow. Because when you feel like you are alone, it's not
Mhm.
going to work. When you feel like
Absolutely.
there's nobody going through it, it's not going to work. And that's the problem with a lot of mental health. It is so stigmatized that we don't talk about it. We don't openly talk about it. When people do, they get the looks that they're crazy, or people back away, or people, misunderstand what
Mhm.
diagnoses really are. And so they don't know how to be around people, how to just
Right.
love on people.
Yeah.
And that's what we need more of in this world is love.
Absolutely. And it's just so much hatred and so much craziness.
Yes.
People just need to be kinder to each other. And like you said, those groups are I I am one of those people that are in like 1,000 groups. I will find a group for anything I like because not everybody likes anything. So I'm just finding my
Mhm.
each thing that I like in all those groups. So definitely join some Facebook groups, but don't spend your whole day on Facebook because
No.
that's bad. But yeah, so community.
Community is a great thing.
Absolutely. Um, well, that is all I have. Do you have anything else?
Not that I can think of.
Well, you were absolutely amazing. I can't even press how amazing you are. And I
Aw.
thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, and I was happy to be here, so my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for future episodes. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Bye, you too.
Bye.
If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for future episodes. Thanks. Bye.